Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's Insta Live. And for those who are joining in for the first time today, or those who will be watching this later in IGTV, just to let you know that this is part of a series called Alternate Ways of Connecting with Nature. And the whole idea is to connect to nature in different ways than the usual ones that we are mostly aware of. So usually we connect with nature by maybe traveling to a nature space that we enjoy, or just spending time there, or maybe taking photographs or painting and things like that. So the series is to just to connect with other people who are doing some soul work of connecting with nature, which is a little unconventional, and some of them also made that as their career choices. So the series is to just to highlight about all those kinds of ways that we could connect with nature that we may not be aware of, and to interview people to share their experiences about it. And today's Insta Live is going to be quite interesting because it is something that's close to my heart too. It's all about nature art. It's about how we can connect to nature through nature art, or land art as it's called in some places. And why it is so special is because nature art is something that can be as simple as just having fun in nature by ourselves, by creating art using nature materials, or it could be having fun with children, with family, with other people, or it can really have a very deep impact on understanding ourselves, that it can have a very cathartic effect, a healing effect. It really can reveal a lot to us by creating art in nature. And the best part is you don't need to be an artist or to believe that you're creative, because nature itself is so creative that once you get into nature and start creating art, it will just emerge. And that was the best part for me, because I've had this mental block since childhood of creating aesthetic art, art that looks good, and always shudder when I have to take a paintbrush and start painting. I have this goal that it has to look beautiful and all of that. But when we are in nature, all of that just does not matter. We just start creating art and it looks beautiful no matter what. So today's session is about how we can connect to nature through nature art. And I'm going to introduce a very special person to this conversation. And her name is Lucy, and she's based out of the mountains in Czech Republic, closer to the boundaries of Germany. And just to give you a brief background about her, though she's been a student of biology, she's carved her own path of doing something that's closer to her heart and nature. So she's a nature guide. She takes people on mindful walks. She's also started nature schools. And if you actually look at her profile, it's full of nature art and land art, which really truly touches your soul and heart when you see it. So we are just going to let Lucy join in. Let me just add her, and we will have a conversation about what her experiences have been when she goes around creating nature art, how it helps her, or what really happens to her. So thanks a lot, Lucy, for taking time out and coming online and having this conversation that hopefully could inspire more people to connect with nature through nature art or land art, and just enjoying the process of being creative and getting in touch with their creative self and nature through that. So maybe let's start off by you sharing, I know your journey. I remember you mentioning, which was very interesting, is how you started the journey of actually making art with plastic that you found on the beach, and you actually created that. You created art with that to create awareness amongst people, right? With the plastic on the beach, and then you slowly moved to creating art with nature art materials, right? Whatever is around you in nature. So in that journey, what has been your insights or aha moments that you really share the impact of it on you?
It's a big question. I will try to be a little bit sorted, but I don't know if I
Sure.
actually will be. Yes, you already spoke about the plastic. I just heard the rest of it. So yeah, I can't really describe why I started to change to the natural materials, I guess, started to talk to me and to draw their attention, my attention to them. I feel the more time I spend in nature, the more mindful and the more aware I am of everything around me. And the more I also hear and feel the things, the organisms, the everything around me. So I think actually the stones, the shells, they started to make me to go into creativity with them. And also, of course, the influence of Andy Goldsworthy, a very famous land artist, which I had seen his books 20 years ago, and they were always in my heart and in my head. It never left me. So I think the combination of that started me to work with natural materials. And also, I moved to nature 15 years ago from a big city, and living in nature somehow revealed my creativity again. I have always been very creative as a child, but then life happened and I kind of forgot about it. It was not present anymore. And being a lot in nature, with nature, and all that together started being creative with natural materials. And once I had started to create with the natural materials, I realized what is happening while I'm doing it. And I realized that each piece I use, a stone, a stick, a shell, a piece of algae, whatever it is, I become much more aware of it, which magic it bears within. Like the whole universe is magic, like the life is magic, planet Earth, each of us is magic. Also the tiniest piece of the universe bears the same magic within. And I started to feel and see that in the creative process. Even the smallest things, like a sand grain, is a pure magic. And when they all come together, the sand grains, there is another magic that I could feel. And I would start to feel very connected to nature and starting to feel that I am a part of it. Not only knowing it, it's in my mind, it's clear that we are all nature and nature is us, but to really feel it, like that it is like it is, that's something different I noticed. It's rationally is one thing, but to experience it is another thing. And making this experience while creating back a lot of the basic trust that I think we are all born with, but that we lose often in the way we live, in the patterns that our society and we have created. We lose the connection and we lose the basic trust that everything is how it should be and that we are where we are and that everything is being taken care of, that this universe works magically for all of us, for each of us in every moment. And this basic trust came back to me through my creativity in nature. And this is an experience I make again and again. And I make it because the creative process is the process between me and the universe. It's a self-led process. I contribute something to the flow. I am part of the flow, but there is also a flow around me that takes me and that overtakes the creative process. So it's both. I'm feeling how I am part of a bigger flow, but I'm also feeling how I'm creating the flow with everything else around me. And that is a very special and magic feeling that has a lot to do with this basic trust and the love with the whole universe, everything in it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, the way you say it is also, there's so much calmness in your voice, and that also reflects on how you being part of nature, and nature creating through you and you creating through nature. There seems to be like a nice magical dance. I like the word you use, magic, right? It's like a magical dance between both of you, nature and you, and it's
Yeah.
you never know who's leading who. It's
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
going together.
And actually, no one is leading.
Yeah.
That's also the thing, the principle of leading. Something, also something that we have learned, I believe.
Yeah.
No such thing like a leader. There's only a thing like unity between everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can be a teacher, of course, but it's not leading someone, and we can only teach something if there are people who want to learn. Otherwise, we cannot be. Yeah? So that is something in the process that I learned. The equality of everything. A stick that lies on the forest floor is not as important for the universe and the world than I am. It's all the same. Yeah. So there are very deep insights that come through creating. Of course, also a lot of joy and happiness.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing it if it wouldn't bring me so much pleasure and joy to do it. Yeah, but also it goes very deep, and I have grown a lot through it and understood so much, and I still do. It doesn't stop.
Yeah. It's like no
Yeah,
matter how much you do, there's always learning, right? And like you said, it's a
yes,
continuum. It's like joy,
yeah,
and it can go to a depth of your soul
yeah,
to really process it and understand
yes,
the insights that it gives away.
yes, yeah. Because we grow through all our life. Our consciousness grows, and the universe grows. And like that is also when you do something, it grows, it unfolds more and more. And it can also be very specific when I create. And when it's finished or during creating, I often also find that what I'm creating is referring to some actual parts of processing, of growth, of transformation I'm going through right now. So even do not intend to create about a special theme or a special process. I usually don't do that. I often see in my works that, aha, okay, this is that, and yeah, this is actually responds very much with I'm experiencing in my life, besides creativity right now, or also what is happening in the world. So
It's like a
my
silent
energy,
therapist.
my energy goes in it unconsciously, consciously. It's just happening, and then I see a lot about myself also. The creations I do, and often it's afterwards or in the end of creating that I realize what I'm doing.
Yeah. And there's such a deep connection, and I liked what you said was even a small twig, which probably we might not notice because it feels like it's just some waste or rubbish that's there lying around, or it could be like a leaf which is all eaten up by some insect.
Yes,
But then when we're creating art, like you said, the awareness becomes so heightened that we tend to notice the beauty in these small things, whether it's a grain of sand or a blade of grass, or it could
yes,
be small things which we can very easily miss out. But because we have that thing of we want to create, we kind of start looking at everything around us, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the beauty of it shines through so brightly, which
Yes.
probably might not have if we are not aware or not connected
No.
as much.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that's
it's because the creating brings us so much in the now and in the place where we are.
yeah.
There is nothing except where we are exists while we are creating. We are really present. I'm not thinking about the past, the future, or what is waiting at home, or what I will do, or what I have done. I'm so present through the creative process, and my mind is still. And in that stillness, we arrive in an amazing. Also, through the manual creating, I mean, it needs a lot of concentration. Often, if I want to arrange something very perfect, very even, very in a circle, let's say, circles are a thing, and to create not perfect, but as perfect as possible circle demands a lot of concentration and being with the surface I'm creating on and the stick, let's say. And to place this little stick exactly the way I want it to be placed on the surface, and then the next stick to it, and next, and there might be hundreds of them, brings you so close to the ground, to every millimeter on the ground. If it's uneven, and then you notice that even a sand grain can have a big impact on what you are creating, depending on what you do, or a little stone or whatever. So the awareness that comes also with the the manual creating, makes you realize so much more about the world around you and the little things which you would never notice if you just walk past it.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense. I mean, because when we create art on like a plain surface, like, you know, usually like drawing or painting, it's just one plain sheet or a canvas. But when we do it in nature, there are so many gradients. So you actually connect to the land also, not just the art. It's so much more than art, right? I mean, it is
so much more. Yeah.
There is, yeah. It just, in fact, you know, when you're sharing about it, I realized that it's such an amazing tool for meditation because it helps you be in the present, and it's a very meditative experience because you're in that flow. And so I work a lot with masculine energy and feminine energy, and masculine energy is all about meditation with being still in one place, closing eyes, all of that, right? And feminine energy is more with movement. It's that's more meditative with dance movement and all of it. So I realized how creating art can be a mix of both very well. It's a balance because there's stillness in your head, there is a stillness in you within, and there is an outward movement of creating and choosing and picking. And so I just had this amazing aha moment saying, wow, this is like a good way to balance the inner masculine and feminine energy too. You know,
yes, I agree.
It may
and
look very
I'm totally. And I'm not the kind of person I rarely sit and meditate in stillness. I learned the concept, but for me it was not what I felt is I want to do. It can be very nice from time to time, but for me a moving meditation like this, this is the way really for me to come to the present. Not a static thing. I mean, it is, like you said, it is because it's also static because it's such a small place I inhabit when I create. Usually I stay on a couple of square meters for hours. So it is static, but on the say, like you said, at the same time not, because in these square meters I move around. But I also realized it's a meditation, or what we call meditation. connection.
Yeah, being
Yeah.
mindful or just being present.
Yeah.
And what you shared probably can help us. Maybe you could share about what is the process that you follow. You also take people out into nature walks to do this, right? So
Yes.
there is a process that you have understood for yourself that worked for you.
Yes.
So maybe if you can share that, and others who have joined us live, feel free to ask us any questions if you have. I'm just checking if there are any questions so far. So no questions, but just mentioning to you, Lucy, Clementina says you're an inspiration. Um, and she also says what you do is really nice, very, very good. So
Yes, Clementina,
just sharing.
I know very well.
Okay.
She's actually a friend through creating,
Okay.
and that is very nice. You are here. Hello, Christina.
So yeah, others can just
Yes,
jot down
the
any questions
process.
you have, and
Yes,
while Lucy shares the process with us of creating nature art. Yes.
yes, yes. So there are different ways, but I will share what I found out for myself is a very good way to become creative, so to get into the flow and into the connection with the creative process. So I try to go outside, not having a goal. I just going out with the wish. It would be nice if I will create, but I am also ready to accept if I will not create. So this is first mindset, very important. Don't force it. Just hope for it or send the wish to the universe that it will happen actually. Then I start walking, and I start walking very slowly, very mindful, very quiet, very aware of my surroundings. And I walk and I enjoy and I look at the snail, at the moss, at the stick, at the tree, everything. And usually it happens after a while of walking around and being aware and being there really, that some materials, something will catch my attention. It can be anything, a leaf, the stones, the sticks, the needles, never know. Just something that will somehow be special and that I somehow want to look closer at. So I will take a closer look at whatever it is, material. I try to use materials that are already free in nature, that nature has already dropped. I'm trying not to take leaves from plants. Sometimes I do though, but most of the time I just try to find things that are already laying around and that I just have to move and not take from. And when I found a material that touches me somehow, I will start to collect this material, not knowing what I will do with it and if it will be something that I will enjoy or like. But I will just start to collect it. And it is possible that while collecting it, I already get an idea of what I can do with it, but not necessarily. So I or without an idea until I reach a point where I have the feeling that's enough. For now, I have collected enough of this material. And then the next step for a place where to create. I will look around, walk. Sometimes I will walk 100 or 200 meters or 1 kilometer with my collected material, just waiting for a place where I feel it can happen. It is a place to create. Not forcing it, just letting it happen. And then really, like the material started to talk, the places start to talk. It just comes from outside. So I will find a place that I think, okay. And sometimes I don't have an idea until I have a place and already collected the material. And I just take out the material. First I spread it out. And then I take the first piece and place it. And then I take the second piece and I look, okay, how does it go to the other piece? And then an idea will usually also come at some point, what it can be. We'll try to make that idea, but during the process of creating, I also will get in touch with the place, with the underground, with the light, with whatever is around me, and the process will adapt, and it will be a self-led process in connection with the material, with the underground, with everything that surrounds me. And something will evolve from this process. Sometimes I also find more material during the process. I look around, maybe I think something is missing, then I look in the surroundings, and there will be something that fits perfectly. Or there will be a surprise gift that will bring even a new dimension to what I already started to create. So it's all taking over. I'm flowing, and around me everything is flowing, and then something comes out. And if you don't push it, and if you don't think, and if you don't judge yourself and the aesthetic of what you are creating, if you let all that go, usually something comes out. And sometimes not. Sometimes the wind takes it away, the rain comes, it all falls apart because just not possible on that day. But that's also a creative process. And also a very important experience that has to be made on that day then. And also good. Yeah. Not only a perfect creation is that is good. Also,
like you said,
everything else.
Yeah, not to have that goal, or not to be so fixated on the goal, because that's when you let go and surrender to whatever needs to emerge. And yeah, so many times when I went created and the wind will blow, and I'm like, oh no, I spent an hour on this, and then the wind blows, and like, damn it. But it really helps me to be more patient and calmer with accepting whatever is happening, right? And it may not be in line with the plan. And so simply put, your process is about just walking mindfully, observing things around and picking up things, and then seeing a space which calls out to you to make the land art or nature art. And then just start with one piece at a time, rather than having a goal saying this is how it should look. And that's usually what happens with art, right? I mean, we say, okay, it should look like an apple, or it should look like a scenario or something. But this is just going with one piece at a time, and then just allowing it to emerge and maybe get destroyed while you're creating, and be okay with it.
Totally. And even if you have a goal, let's say a spiral, I also very much like to make spirals. And yes, of course, then I have the goal to make a spiral. But how the spiral goes, left turn, right turn, think about it. Then in the process, I just made a spiral of little pine cones, and I already started, and I made it and balanced the little cones, and I collected more, added them, and then I went again, another 20, added them. And while I made it, I all of a sudden found a few green cones. I had not seen them before, and I found them. I was not looking for them, they were just there. So I changed the plan, and I started to integrate a few green cones to the spiral, although I already started a brown spiral. But then I thought, okay, here they are, beautiful. Let's put them in. And that added a very special spiral, another level, another dimension. Also in the meaning of it, because the other cones were from the last year, but the green ones were from this year, ripped from the tree by a very strong wind we had here. So when you go deeper, or you want to go deeper in the meaning of the spiral, what it can mean, what it can stand for, it's a difference if you have only the brown cones from last year, or you have some fresh ones that brought to you by a storm. So that's how I work, and I'm always very astonished how the environment gifts me and surprises me and brings me things. Or for example, I do sometimes in Portugal. I spend the winters in Portugal at the west coast, and there I work on the beaches with stones, quartz lines. And from these quartz lines and stones, I create. And this is quite challenging to create something from these natural lines on the stones. And sometimes, let's say, I create a tree of life. I like to do that from the lines on the stones. And then when finishing, for example, I often think, oh, now I need a stone. It has to be 5 centimeter and the line has to be like this. And then I start walking the beach looking for this stone, which I think has to come to me to finish the artwork. But while I have it in my head, what I exactly need, it will not come. So after some minutes of searching for the stone, not finding it, I realize again, there it is again. You have a goal, it will not come. Let it go, Lucy. Just walk over the beach, just look at the stones, and the stones will show you what is missing in your artwork. And then it will come. And maybe it's 2 stones. Maybe it's a stone that looks totally different than I imagined, but also finishes it off perfectly. So that's what I found out. When I let go, it happens. And I think that's a reflection on life, how we live. This is not only happening in the creative process, it's a message for life. We always try to gain security, to plan, to do, and have no trust that things will come the way they should. Or we always think when things come to us that are not so nice in the first moment, we don't want them, instead of accepting them, trying to see the gift in them. So I always transfer these experiences to my life and to life in general, that we just should let it happen and flow and trust that it is how it should be. And it will come if we let it come. But we have to be open to let it come.
Yeah. So it's not just the art that you've created that gives us insight, but the entire process of creation is also something that's like a reflection or a mirror to our life and what we need to know at that moment. And that's such a beautiful way to look at it. It can really be very profound. And
for me, it is.
Yeah, it's almost like nature is customizing what we need to know for us, in that space. It's like a personal therapist. That's what I was saying. Yeah. And we've got a question from Keep Kindness. The person is asking, how often do you create your beautiful works of natural art?
Yeah, it's very different. When I'm in Portugal, I'm there usually for 5 months a year, if it's possible, in the winter and the springtime. And there I don't have to work very much to earn money. So there I really have a lot of time for my art. So I create every day, every second day, every third day, really a lot. Because every day I wake up, I would like to create almost. Yeah, it is really the thing I want to do. When I ask myself what do I want to do, if I can do what I want to do today and I don't have to look at anything else, then I want to create. And walk, of course, and be outside, but I really like to create. So when I have the time, I create a lot. But now in the summer and in the autumn, I live in the Bohemian Forest in Czech Republic. And this is also the place I earn my money for living. So I have other work to do, which is, of course, needs a lot of time and attention and power. So here I cannot create so often. So maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. It depends very much. Here it is a little bit a matter of time. When I go into the autumn here, I will have more time again. And then it might be also every third day. But yeah, it depends where I am and how much work I have to do for my living. And, yeah. But if I could, I would be creating
Every day.
every day. Yeah, but
Yeah. I
yeah, I
think for
need to
each,
make a living.
yeah, for each one of us, I guess we just have to find our own rhythm of creation, right? I mean, whatever works. Like for me, during the pandemic, especially since staying in the urban apartments and you don't really have access to nature spaces as much because we couldn't go during the lockdown and all of it. Started doing it at home with whatever is around, leaves and all of it. And it just, so I started doing it during new moon, full moon. So that kind of kept a
Mhm.
rhythm going for me each time.
Mhm.
So I guess, yeah, taking care of everything, but also making a conscious effort to taking that pause and doing the creation is also important to be part of the rhythm, right? To just keep going.
You mean pausing between the creations is important?
Pausing to make sure that you take out time to create. Like
Yes, yes.
otherwise it may just our day-to-day work can just take us away from
Oh,
it. So
yes, yes,
for me,
yes.
the moon cycle was a reminder to pause and say, hey, just make
Uh-huh.
something now with nature
Yeah,
out. So
yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, I can just feel it when I work a couple of days, a lot of hours. Urge to create becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Also, the urge to just be in the forest for a couple of hours, but also the urge to create because it has such a regenerative effect as well. We haven't mentioned that yet, but when I'm really tired of working and I go out and create, although it's physically demanding because I have to bend down 200 times to pick up sticks and I'm hovering over them for hours in a very funny yoga-like position, um, it is regenerative. After I have finished, I'm so full of energy and happiness and joy and feel alive. Yeah, and it comes really, I can really feel when my body and my mind need to create. I think I also like to dance, for example, and I have the same after a couple of days not dancing for myself. My body, my mind talks to me and tells me, yeah, go out, do it. You have
yeah.
to. It's needed. Yeah.
Yeah, and that brings us to the other important point that creating land art or nature art can also be a good exercise, right? For the back, for the arms, for the legs, because it does.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
usually after that, I would sometimes have a backache and I'm like, I'm so
Yeah.
tired, energetic internally, but also tired physically.
Yes. It is.
It is quite
It is.
demanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the positions are so funny.
Yeah.
But I also noticed when I do it a lot, like in Portugal, then it's really good for my muscles, for my strength, and I get really adapted to it. And it's healthy physically also, the workout and
Yeah.
bending for the stones and carrying the stones and hovering over it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, but if I only do it from time to time, like now here in the Bohemian Forest, the pain is more intensive after the big artwork. But it's good. I like to feel it also. And it will remind me that I need to exercise more, actually, which is also, it also talks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
yeah,
there's
yeah.
just so much communication within the body also, like you mentioned, the body tells you go and do it and you feel like, yeah, you need to move and, so there's
Yeah.
like as I heard you talk, it was like there's communication across a lot of things. It's communication amongst the nature elements and you, the land and you, and then your body and you. So it's just,
Yes.
there is this, unspoken communication that's happening between all the nature
Yes.
elements, including you as part of nature. And that's, I
Yes.
think,
Yeah.
it's
Well
something that,
said.
yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
amazing that if you look at it from that way, that you're really having a deep connection with nature through the unspoken communication. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me
Very
just
true.
check if there are any other questions. As we slowly come to an end of this talk, is there any other questions that you want to ask? Okay, there's one. Tina Smedja is asking, when you go outside, do you wear or fringe something to help you carry any material you collect? Wear or
Ah, if
carry
I bring
something?
something,
Yeah, to collect all the articles, I guess, is what the
yes.
person is asking.
Of course, not always, because so often it is spontaneous and I don't know what I will do. So very often I have just nothing with me except the jacket I'm wearing. But for example, in Portugal, there I work with the stones and I know that I work with the stones. There can be an exception. All of a sudden, one day it will not be stones, it will be plastic or sticks or whatever I find on the beach, or a drawing, for example. But I know, let's say 80–90% in Portugal, it will be stones. And I have found out that for stones, it is very good to have a bag. And so I usually have a bag somewhere in my backpack or in my pockets in case I need it. And in Portugal also, I found out that when I make a stone artwork, it looks very different if it's dry or if it's wet. And wet stones look very different to dry stones. So I usually in my backpack, which I have with me anyway, because I need drink, food, stuff like that, first aid kit, all these things I have with me to be safe. And I also have a spray water bottle with me in Portugal because it's very beautiful to make artwork, and then it's dry. And after I took the picture dry, I take the spray water bottle and I spray it, and then it looks totally different in the wet stage. So this is something I bring, or in my backpack in Portugal, two little shovels and two little sticks I found on the beach, and I always have them in my backpack because sometimes I create in sand with the shovels and the spoons, and they are so lightweight, but I just always have them so that I have all opportunities on the beach, but doesn't mean I use them. I carry them to the beach 20 times, and the 21st time maybe I will use the little shovel I have. And here in the forest, I usually have nothing.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you learn what to carry as you start making the artwork and realize what works, what doesn't work. It's always a good idea to have a bag, maybe a cloth bag sometimes to just carry stuff. So I have
Yes.
a question, maybe to end the whole conversation is, I usually notice that your art would have similar things, right? I mean, it's the seeds of the same kind, or pine cones, or sticks only. So is it that when you start collecting, you consciously collect the same type of material to make, like only stones or is it that you collect everything and then you kind of separate it, or how do you go about it when you start collecting things?
Usually I only collect one thing that caught my attention. It is possible that while I collect one thing, I will see something else that gets my attention, and then I will also collect a second thing. But I noticed about myself, I'm very fascinated to work just with one material and to see what it can reveal. That's maybe also something within me or within my aesthetic that I like to stay with one material, but not necessarily. Like I have created things with wood and shells, for example, or also here in the last weeks I created something that would contain sticks and bark, for example. It's happening naturally. I don't decide it really. Myself that very often I like to stay with one material because I'm so fascinated how strong one material can be and what it contains, and that it doesn't need anything. And if I choose only one material, it's a much stronger focus on the one material and a much awareness to the only one material. I told you when we spoke before, it's with the sticks, that I discovered this year. I'm so fascinated how little sticks, what they can actually create and how much beauty is in them. And then it fascinates me also really to just stay with the sticks and to break it down to this, and also to, sometimes we feel, oh, one material is not enough. There is not enough in it. I need to take another one to make it more beautiful. But if I restrict myself to one, then I discover the beauty that is in the material, and I start to realize it is enough. And I don't need another material. It's just the vision I have and the awareness I have of the material that limits it. The material is not limited. I can build a whole world out of sticks, but I have to allow it and also bring my attention to it, and then it will, how much is in it, and that it is abundant. That is again a big reflection to life when we think we are enough, or this is not enough, or I need this, or this person is not enough. It's inside of us. If we come into another state of looking at whatever, other persons, the world, ourselves, the stick, then we can also discover the abundance that is in everything. Always. Yeah. We just don't see it. Yeah.
That's beautifully said. And as we spoke about the process that you follow of what you start, how you move about doing it, and things that you do during the process, maybe we can also share as to how do you end the whole process, like after you've created, right? I mean, for me, usually after I create, I just ask myself, what is a word that is coming up for me, or what is this art trying to tell me, if I want to, or sometimes I just leave it and say, okay, now if I'm tired, I'm going, right? So is there like a closure process for you to end the whole thing?
Yes, one thing what you said, I also do. I try to feel the message, the word, the deeper meaning that I haven't maybe seen during creating. But I usually have a lot of time for that, because I take a lot of time to take my pictures, really. It can be that I create it for 3 hours, and then 1 hour I'll take to make pictures of it. I really use a lot of time for the photography part as well. And then it might reveal something. Then when I'm finished, I always say, thank you, sticks, thank you, trees, thank you, sun, thank you, forest, thank you, Lucy, thank you, universe, for everything. And then when I go home, and before I publish it, I always try to find a quote that goes with it. And usually I'm not using my own words. I'm looking for a quote that an artist of the words has already created, because words, to find the right words is an art form for myself. And I like to look which quote goes with my artwork, and looking for this quote and finding it is also part of the process, and reveals me another dimension, usually a deeper dimension of what I have created actually. So I really enjoy that as well. Yeah.
Lovely. That's so great. Thanks a lot for sharing your process, Lucy. That was such an insightful session for anyone. I mean, someone who's not yet created nature art and would love to start off, or those who, people like us who are already doing it, but also to hear the process that you have, so that we could incorporate some of this in our own artwork whenever we do with nature. So I think it was very, very insightful. And thanks a lot, Lucy, for sharing all that you've been doing. It was wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you. I must say it's really a big pleasure to know you now, and to have spoken to you, and that you opened this possibility of Instagram Live to me. I feel very connected and very to you and to what you do, and also very honored. And still very excited that we did this together, and
Yeah,
yeah, I'm very thankful to you, and
same
yeah,
here.
that
And
it
like,
all happened.
yeah, like how you
We'll be in
end.
touch.
Yes, and how you end with gratitude. I think we also need to be grateful for Instagram and internet for, despite me being in India, you being in Czech Republic, we could still have a
This is so
conversation
amazing.
about it. Is so we're really grateful, and
Yeah.
we've got a message from Tina Meja also, who says thank you for the lovely conversation. You express very clearly what comes across as feeling from the viewing of your works to both of you. Thanks a lot, Tina. Really helpful
Thank you.
conversation for me personally, as well as I'm sure those who are there live. Thank you for being with us throughout this conversation.
Thank
Hope it was useful for you. And for those who probably will be watching it later on YouTube or IGTV, hope this helps you. And thank you again, Lucy. And for those who are interested in the series, next Saturday we are going to talk about creating forests. So I'm going to talk to someone who's actually left the so-called materialistic world and has got into creating forests as a profession. So look forward to that, and join in if that resonates for you. Okay. Thanks a lot, Lucy. Have a great
Thank you.
weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.
Much love.
You too.
Bye.